Welcome to the presentation, and let's jump right in. Okay, so let's start with a question, by asking a very interesting question. So what makes a state-of-the-art data platform? And why is this question relevant to us? Mainly because it's the question we've been trying to answer for the last 2 or 3 years. Why is this relevant to the talk? Because it's basically the question driving the whole story that we're going to show you. And spoiler alert, the story has actually a very happy ending, because we have a functioning data platform, which we believe to be state-of-the-art, powered by Consul, of course, and including Presto. And we're gonna show you a sneak peek of it right now. So Frederick is gonna demo like a minute in the life of a platform user to begin with.
So let's dive in. So this is a start. It's a little screencast. So this is a minute in the life of a platform user. Everything is taken care of, so you can just do your work. I'm just starting a quick demo on my local computer, and I'm running Consul and Nomad. I'm running MinIO for object storage, Hive Metastore for metadata, and Presto on top of that. And it takes a little while to start up because it's all running on my local computer. But when it's connected, we will try to do a very simple task. We will read some data, we'll write some data, and we will read some data again.
Important to say, this is all coming up from scratch. So before Frederick started his demo, there was nothing, absolutely nothing running. That's why it takes just a little bit of time, but now Presto seems to be up and running.
Yes.
Correct?
So I've just created a simple makefile. We will show this later. And I'm connecting to Presto using the localhost proxy that has been set up for me, and connecting to the TPCH catalog with a tiny schema. That's just a random data generator out of the box with Presto. And I want to create a Hive table for that. So I'm just running this, and now it will create a Hive table with the data in ORC format in MinIO locally on my computer. And just to show that it's actually working, I will try to select from it, and hopefully we'll see some data. So that's a very quick overview of what a life would be using this data platform.
Yeah, of course, no UIs whatsoever, because this is how
it works.
This is how it works. Just terminal 90% of the day. So we are back to the original question, but before answering it, I think it's worth to give a proper introduction to the main characters of this story, right? So this is Presto, and we can say that Presto is a fundamental component of our platform. It's key for us. Why is that?
No, it's a SQL on anything distributed system. It was developed originally by Facebook, but it now has a larger community and corporate backing. It's used by a number of large companies and entities around the world, and it's open source, and it is cloud native. It was all running on my computer in Docker, so it's transportable to everywhere, really.
All right.
So the next one is Consul.
That's Consul, and that's basically the main character of our story. So Consul has been with us since the very start of our journey, and we were looking at Consul basically because of the service discovery capabilities, because of the DNS features and what it was able to solve for us in terms of networking, also because of the distributed key value store. So that's how we started. But Consul has kept along with us through the whole journey, and it has given us more and more value. And inevitably, we've come to look at the service mesh capabilities as well. So what you see on the slide right here, that's just a subset of what Consul can do. It can do much more, but this is the part which is more interesting to us, and this is the part that has to do with the story. That's why it's here. But that being said, I would dare to say that Consul is basically nowadays, in the present tense, the central nervous system of our platform.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's taking a more foremost role after starting to work with the service mesh.
So just before diving into the meat of the presentation, I think we should introduce ourselves properly, which we haven't done. So I'm Arturo Viveros from Mexico.
And my name is Frederick Greland. I'm from Norway.
Yeah, we both work at Cisco, which is a Norwegian IT consultancy company. And our main focus, both our focus and the company's focus, is on software development, data engineering, service integration, which are also the pillars driving this story that we're showing to you.
This is our bread and butter.
Yeah, this is our everyday. So let's move on. And it's time to reveal the agenda, the flow of our presentation. This is what we're going to show you. Some of it we've already shown. That's why it's in a lighter color. Okay, so it's all centered around this question that we already asked. What makes a state-of-the-art data platform? Okay, and we're going to solve this through Consul Connect, through Presto, doing some demos. But it's very important to say that the flow of the talk resembles the approach we have taken to solving this problem, which is hypothesis, building an MVP, having a thinnest viable platform that works, and keeping an iteration cycle throughout all of this. Let's move on. So back to the question. So there's no going around. We have to answer the question this time. Okay, put this off for a few minutes. So how do we answer this question?
Well, I could say that the overall experience should match the expectations. And this is a busy slide. There are a lot of expectations to the data platform these days, and it's a moving target. So all of this can be very overwhelming. So the question would be, how can we make sense of all of that?
Yeah, if you're not able to make sense of this and you stay with this chaos, then it's hit or miss. You can aim for this, you may hit something, you don't know what, but you're going to miss a lot. So you need to put structure on it, and we did that mainly by looking into the key personas for our platform. So what are these key personas? It's basically 3 of those. They are not the only ones involved, but they are key to the success of the platform. So that's the data scientist, and the data scientist is basically the persona getting the value out of the platform. So what the business is expecting in terms of value, this guy or girl is going to give it to them, plain and simple. We have the data engineer, which is a persona building up the platform, working with it, doing the wiring. So if we don't have the data engineers on board, then the platform is going to be crap, basically. And we have the security officer, and this is a very important persona because the security officer gives the green light for everything. And if the security officer is not on board, then this is a no-go, and there's no way around it. So all of them have to be on board. Sometimes the requirements are conflicting, but we have to find common ground. And the most common of the grounds that we found here, it's simplicity. They all need to be able to operate a platform which is simple enough, which has a low threshold. We can find common ground also for example, data scientist and the security officer. They are hard to get along, but they are both, they have both a policy-driven mind. Yeah, they need access to data.
They all want the same thing.
Yeah.
They want to work with the data that they need in order to do their work, the data scientists. And the security officer doesn't want to give access to any more data than they have to for policy and policy reasons.
Exactly. And in your case, you are a data engineer yourself. So what's the most important aspect for you?
It's definitely to manage change. To manage a change in data pipelines, in tooling. But it really comes down to managing the upstream changes so that you can do experimentation and be more casual in your work and don't have to think about what what will happen if I do this or that change. So that's key.
Yeah, and even though your work is very different from the data scientist, you both have common ground as well. You need to be able to bring your own tools, your own technology into the platform to be able to perform your job to the best of your ability, right?
This is correct. And also to take the last point here is we also care about the authentication, the authorization, and the auditability of the platform, of the solutions we're building, so that we are providing the right data to the right people at the right time. And that is the last piece of this puzzle. And we do believe that simplicity makes security.
Yeah.
If it's simple, it's understandable, it's relatable, it will be secure.
Then it's secure. Yeah, and this is a good answer to the question. It's a fair answer, but with it comes the realization that, okay, we have this, but now we need technology which is able to solve this puzzle, to address these requirements, these concerns. We don't have expectations anymore or a wish list. We have features and we can prioritize them. But which tool, which technology can we use to solve this?
Yeah, that's of course Consul. And Consul Connect integration is quite straightforward and simple. So, Arturo.
Yeah, let's go into it. So it is straightforward. Why is that? Because there is a blueprint for it and it works. Okay, so if you have the right ecosystem in place, if your services have the right characteristics and they are ripe for this, then you just bring in the control plane, you follow the recipe, and it will work beautifully. And what do we mean by right? What do we mean by the right characteristics? It's basically that the services are self-contained, that they are able to talk standard protocols like HTTP, for example, and that they are able to listen on loopback, so we can spin up sidecars for them. And so they are able to be part of this concert. So when this happens, then it's very, very straightforward. And it's a proven solution.
Well, until it isn't.
Until it isn't, right? What could go wrong? Because it cannot be as easy as that. And it's not, because what happens when we bring opinionated applications, systems into the mix? And this happens all the time, because many applications are like this, and including Presto, which is part of our case study. In this case, you can see in the diagram, we have an application that's following a very common pattern of coordinator and workers. It's an orchestration pattern. So this internal wiring, we cannot delegate it easily to our control plane, which is Consul. And if we secure only the coordinator, then we are obviating a big part of the security that needs to be taken care of. So that's not what we want. Let's go to the next one. What happens if we try to secure the whole thing by just shoehorning the blueprint into this kind of landscape? Then it becomes very complex. And then we end up with something that doesn't scale very well. And we are facing a big compromise, architectural-wise, design-wise. But this is not the worst part. What happens if we add more coordinators to the mix? And this is also very common. You can think of Kafka, for example, where you have zookeepers and you have brokers, and you can have as many zookeepers as you want, and you have as many brokers as you want. So then you are practically looking at spaghetti, and that's not where you want to be. And this is just one system, what the diagram is showing. Imagine this 10 times this or 20 times this within your ecosystem. And that's definitely not the way to go. So is there an alternative to this?
Well, we felt like we had to go back to the drawing board. Are we able to remove that complexity? And as you say, what is the alternative? And it was a fairly obscure part of the Consul Connect documentation called Connect native integration.
Yeah, you could say that it's not front and center when you go to the web page or to the documents, but it is there and it is well documented. And when you start looking at native integration, it might be scary at first. It might be a little bit overwhelming and okay, this is going to take a lot of work. This is going to be painful, but it is not. It's actually very simple, and it's basically mutual TLS plus an authorization call done through the Consul API towards the Consul agent. So it's a low latency solution, it's a low code solution, and it's something that you do entirely on the application side. So you don't have to touch the control plane, you don't have to high wire it or anything of the sort. You keep your Consul Connect, you keep your service mesh as it is, and you will enable your application by doing just a small amount of work to connect natively, and it will work.
Yeah, so I think we should look at what we did when trying to integrate Presto into the service mesh.
Yeah, we basically looked into Presto. Presto is a Java application, big Java application, but typical Java application. It uses Maven, it uses standard libraries. It relies on its own framework for service discovery, which is called Airlift. That's a REST framework developed by them as well. But the only thing we needed to do is find out where does Presto handle certificates. That's at the core of the component. So we don't really want to hack into the core of the component. That's not something we want to do because we don't want to keep a fork of Presto forever and have to maintain it, right? So what we decided to do was to extend this function. Presto has a pluggable framework where you can write plugins and connectors for everything. So we created a pull request. We extended this certificate handling functionality to be part of the plugin framework. So we can create our own plugin and bring it into Presto. And we can enable it if we need it. And if we don't need it, then it's not a problem. Okay, so it doesn't mess up Presto. It doesn't, it's backwards compatible. It doesn't affect anyone else, but it enables us to do what we need to do. And in the end, the plugin, the code for the plugin, which you can see in the screen, in the black square, it's only a few lines of code. So you need to get some information. Consul provides the certificates. You need to get some information from those certificates, serial number, unique URI, which identifies your service. You need to be able to identify your target service, and then you do the API call towards Consul.
And all of this comes through the certificate. So I hope by showing this, we convey the story that it's fairly straightforward. If you understand your tools, then it's easy to do this integration.
Yeah.
And that
leads to this, a much better, much cleaner, much neater architecture, simplified, where we are actually leveraging the fact that we have a coordinator because we can make the magic happen there. So the tool is working for us or with us, not against us, as it seemed before. This is a secure and scalable solution. We can say this confidently because we have tried it, or we have proven this. And the work was done entirely on the application side, and our control plane remained untouched. By the way, our pull request is still ongoing, but it has a very good outcome, or it seems to have it. So this, in a matter of weeks or a couple of months, we should be working with a master version of Presto with this functionality included on it, and it's a beautiful architecture and much better than the spaghetti we were facing before going back to the drawing board. So
to move a little bit forward, we've been working with the alpha and the beta versions of the HashiCorp components, Nomad, Consul. We've compiled them to experiment and to make them do what we need them to do, and we're getting to know the code. And the statement, statement should be, don't be afraid of the bleeding edge. As long as you're the one bleeding, it's okay to be there.
Yeah, this is part of the lesson we learned by doing all of this. It might seem scary again, but together it pays off.
Architecturally, it does. It makes for a simpler solution at the end. So we will do a quick demo. It's a screencast. It will be fairly fast, where we are going through the paces of connecting to Consul here. So everything is on my PC. The network is provided by Nomad, so it's working out of CNI. So it is a completely closed solution. It is an ACL-enabled Consul that's running in denial mode. And therefore, the tokens policies are needed for any interaction. So what you see here is just me creating all of that. There's a lot of things on the screen. And I'm just showing that we are now able to connect to Presto. Consul shows Presto being a part of the services. We're giving the user token. This has been created in the Bootstrap, and that user token has only access to be set as a service user. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm connecting to Consul Connect proxy. This is a local proxy that's going to run using the service name user. The upstream is Presto. It's running on my localhost 8080. So now that that is running, I will try to connect to Presto. And we can do that by using the HTTP interface. So we'll just do a curl to localhost 8080, and we will get an access denied. It says why, default behavior configured by ACLs. This is coming from Consul, and it's just being forwarded by this proxy. So let's do a Consul intention check for user to Presto, and it says denied. So we need to do something. We are going back and killing off that proxy, and let's see if we can do something else. So we're now working with the master token so that we can change how Consul is working. Consul needs to allow the user to connect to Presto. So this takes a second, and then we can use the Consul CLI once more. It's very simple. It is Consul intention. You do create for user to Presto. So it's very simple and straightforward. And you will then get confirmation that this has been created. Starting the proxy again, we are now going back and querying the state of the coordinator in Presto. So this has an endpoint info, and we will show that it's actually running, and it's the coordinator that resolves this. We will also see that we have a cluster with 2 active workers. And now I will connect to Presto. If you're familiar with Presto, you will notice that I'm using the HTTP proxy rather than server. This is because that allows Presto to rewrite so that it doesn't append HTTPS, then it will fail. We're going to use the TPCH catalog again and the schema tiny. And we are now selecting from that. And what you will see is that now we are actually working against the workers of Presto. So we're getting the data through the workers, and everything is running locally now, but this could be running in the cloud. It wouldn't matter, it wouldn't make a difference. So I hope that showed that this is quite possible, but to end this off, I think it's also important to show that it's possible to deny that same access. So without changing anything but the intention, will we be able to connect still? And the way that this proxying is working is that it's for every call, it's doing a check. So we're deleting the intention. We're just trying to run again against Presto, and it will be denied. So that is the end of this story. And I think the takeaway here is that we should really be stopped by policy and not the technology.
Yeah, correct. So if we don't want to give everyone free access to data, but when you don't have access to data, we want this to be because the policy makers wanted it so, not because the technology we're using was constraining us. So that's why we did what we did. We can look at some personal takeaways to wrap this up. So we were asking about the state-of-the-art data platform. So we believe that state-of-the-art should be simple as that. So that means don't overcomplicate matters.
No.
Simple is better.
Yeah, and refactor to reduce noise, clutter, complexity, and redesign to refine. And we've done that throughout this journey, and we will keep doing that. And it's made possible by open source.
Yeah, and of course, if you embrace this mindset, then you will get a lot out of it. That's for sure. And
and to make note that this demo has been done completely by using the open source versions of the HashiStack.
Yeah.
But in order to get the additional enterprise level governance and policy, you are good to use, or you should use the enterprise versions, as you can get the security officer even more on board. But it's possible to do this on the open source.
Yeah, and by the way, we are glad to answer any questions on the chat. So we are going to hang out here for a little bit longer, and yeah, so we are basically
we took it in. I think we're well within the time, so that we are back on track maybe.